As this working mom, I'm super curious about our next talk. It's called Parenting Backwards, a session for parents in the fast-paced tech world who are always investing in themselves and their careers and want to bring that level of intentionality to their parenting. And it's my pleasure to announce Stephanie LeBlanc-Godfrey, the Global Head of Inclusion Programs for Women of Color at Google and the founder of Parenting Backwards. Hi, Stephanie, and welcome.
Hi, Anna. How are you?
Good. You?
Good. I am just trying to figure out how to share my screen. And then I'm ready for us to get started, but happy to be here and so thankful.
We can see your screen. Super excited for your talk. Enjoy. I will leave the stage for you.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Stephanie LeBlanc-Godfrey. First things first, I'm going to lead today's session with an assumption that everyone that's joining today is either a caregiver to an amazing little human being in your life, a parent, a grandparent, aunt, uncle, or family friend. You have skin in the game and can have a tremendous impact on the child or children in your life. In our time together, I'm going to show you your powers when it comes to parenting and how you can take advantage of ordinary moment-to-moment engagements as opportunities to teach. Everyday interactions have the potential to teach invaluable lessons. So please throw away the idea that you need these grand interventions, well-worded speeches, or worse yet, some parenting strategies and blanket techniques out of a parenting book. They may fix a behavior for the moment, but I'm here to provide long-term, sustainable, and deeply transformational results as it relates to your parenting life. And so a little bit about me. I'm a working parent and a parent that works, which means at any given hour of the day, I'm thinking about, feeling guilty over, or running to or from one or the other. I work at Google in the diversity and inclusion space, which is both hard work, but also heart work. And these are my three kids, 10, 8, and 4, Emery, Olivia, and Noah. And they were the inspiration behind Parenting Backwards. And they have also given me lots of opportunities to test and iterate. So what is Parenting Backwards? Well, it's a self-work philosophy. You are at the center of who your children are today, with no judgment attached, right? You is both directly you, but also indirect. Your partner or spouse, your grandparents, the nanny, the teacher, whoever is in the child's life on a consistent basis. And here's how you show up. So think of, if you just look at the interactions with your child's siblings, between their siblings or their peers, right? So in our household, both frustration, sarcasm, and shortness is prevalent. So in my head, I'm the close to 40-something overtired person in the house. And so I think I deserve to be a little jaded and short on patience sometimes. Well, they think that that's just normal behavior. And so they're exhibiting it at 10 and 8. Not good. Another thing to look at, their tone when they play make pretend. So I remember when one of my daughters was really young, she'd be yelling at her dolls when she played teacher. You're not doing it right. Go sit down, go in the corner. And so I asked her, where is she hearing this? Because that's not the way in which I spoke to her. Needless to say, that unearthed a dynamic within the classroom at her school where the teacher was constantly yelling at her. So another story for another day, but it brings out who the people in your life and how they're impacting the way kids actually show up on a day-to-day basis. And how do they react when they're frustrated or sad? Have you taught them words to describe their emotions? How do you showcase your own sadness or anger? And how do you talk about your de-escalation methods? If we don't give kids the vocabulary to talk through their feelings, then no wonder when they become frustrated, they can exhibit it in ways that aren't very pleasant to us as parents. And so you have the power to impact change in your level of connection, from transactional and hierarchical to really deep and meaningful. The question's how, right? So focus on your own development. I'm sorry, there is no magical chant, no secret spell that you can just say and everything will fall into place. This is work, but it's valuable work and it's worthy work, and it benefits both you and your children. So in terms of taking them on your learning journey and making it fun, I'm sure that everyone tuning in today are all A-type overachievers. We read all the books, we watch all the TED Talks, we take all the classes to develop ourselves both personally and professionally. But what if we imparted that onto our kids in age-appropriate ways? So for an example, over the Christmas break, I was cleaning up our household finances. And I thought, what would be a really neat way to include them in that part? And so what I decided to do is two things. One, we actually went to a mall to shop, which I never, ever do. And two, we took out cash to do it. So as a family, we sat down, wrote out everyone that we wanted to get gifts for, assigned a budget to them, cash in an envelope, and we hit the mall. And so they were able to spend the day really choosing the things that they wanted to get for their loved ones and realizing, wow, that money in that envelope goes really, really quickly. And all we're left with is coins at the end. So it's a really tangible way for them to really interact with money. And then they had a lot of decision making throughout the day. So there were places where they underspent and they could apply more to other members of the family. Or in the case of their dad, they overspent, which is fine. He's dad, right? But that meant that we would have to take the budget out of others. So we had to have that conversation. Are we okay with that? Maybe do we want to look through what we've just bought for him and pick something else? And so that day was so monumental and such a teaching experience for me, working on our finances and trying to stick to a budget for once for Christmas. And then them just learning how money works, the price of things, the fact that it goes away and we're left with an empty envelope of the day. And so we both worked on our financing journey together. And so I really, really love this quote, and it really embodies the spirit of parenting backwards. And that's that kids watch who you are to understand who to become. They are soaking up and internalizing all that we say and do and how we show up in the world. You know, we actually hold beliefs and values and assumptions that we've never examined from past life, from as we're growing up and into adulthood. But what that leads us to is harshly imposing expectations and exhibiting behaviors that we aren't even sure that we want or need. So the point here is, what's the self-work, the education, the mindset shift, the direct conversations, even the healing of traumatic experiences that each of us need to do to be able to model what we want our kids to emulate, because they are holding up a mirror to us, and guarantee that any behavior that you see, good or bad, can be attributed back to you or someone within your internal circle in which they're picking it up from. And so I'd be remiss if I didn't spend a moment just to talk about how you can use the parenting backwards philosophy to address where we are today with systemic racism and social injustice. So this is Martin Luther King Jr. And I have him to thank for how I started talking to my kids about race. And it's not in this grand way, it was very direct. So when my child was around 4 years old, she came home super excited and she was like, I love Martin Luther King. He's amazing. And I was like, okay, yes, he is. And then she follows up with, he made it possible so that I can play with my cousin. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, well, I'm white and my cousin is Black. And so therefore, Martin Luther King made it possible so white and Black children can play together. What I learned from that is whether we choose to participate or not, kids are formulating opinions about the world around them and internalizing it. So I was so worried about bringing up race at such a young age. Like, I didn't want to plant the seed about it. I didn't want to talk about it too soon. But guess what? She had already made a determination of who she was versus who other people were. And so the point there is that we can either be part of the conversation, or actually there should be no alternative. We must be a part of the conversation. And so here are some areas that we can just take a look at to diversify our current life, right? To just do some self-reflection. I mean, yes, we should give. Yes, we should educate ourselves. Yes, we have to face things that we've never had to before, or for many of us that we've had to engage with throughout our lives. But we also have to do some self-reflection in these areas and talk through areas that we can intentionally work on. So your inner circle and friendships, right? Who do you hang around? Who's sitting at your dinner table? Who do you go out with on a Friday night? Who do your kids see you around? What are the leaders that you learn from? What books are you reading that they're seeing laying around the house? What TV shows are you watching where they can see a diverse crowd? Your place of worship, how diverse is it if that's a part of your life? Your beauty standards. Who do you idolize? Who do you mention? Wow, she looks great. Ooh, I love that dress. What do those women or men look like? What are the toys that you buy for your kids or the books that you read to them? Being intentional about showing that diversity, but also speaking very specifically and intentionally about that diversity. We must be a part of that conversation with our kids. And it's something that, you know, as diversity and inclusion is something that's super critical at work and something that's talked about at work all the time. It has to translate over into the work that we do at home as well. And so I want to keep this conversation going. With Parenting Backwards, I offer a number of ways to engage with parents. So one-on-one coaching, group coaching, if you have a mom's group or you want to do it as a family unit, a 6-week course where you can go deep with an accountability group, or even corporate sessions where I can talk with your parent working groups or ERGs that support parents within the workplace. I think I know the value that I bring here is experience, right? We all have something to share with each other around the things that we want to work on, around the places that we want to be. And I think there needs to be an intentional way in which we talk about parenting, and we talk about and share both our wins and our failures, and kind of cross-share what worked, what didn't, and really create that psychologically safe space to be candid about how our parenting is going. We have all of these amazing conversations that are happening today and beyond in conferences. But as a parent, that is definitely an intricate balance in how we show up within the world and within our job. If we had a crummy bedtime routine, that can affect our morning and then how we show up at work. And so finally, just wanted to also share some contact information. So I have my email address, my Instagram, and also my website, so that we can keep the conversation going, talk to each other about what's working, and really dive into you, right? You is who has the most power in having an impact on your child. Going back to what I shared about the role modeling piece, they are watching what we do. They're literally holding up a mirror and looking at how we're reacting to things or not reacting, how we're speaking about things or being silent. And they're taking that as part of that core. So we have a responsibility to do the self work so that they can witness it and be part of it, to become just the amazing, empathetic human beings that we all have for them. And now I know we have time left. I intentionally left some time so that we'd be able to have a dialogue and have questions. So would love to look in the chat and see if anyone has anything.
Thanks a lot, Stephanie. It was a very interesting presentation. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. I really loved what you said, that we must be a part of a conversation and that our children actually know much more than we think they do, and we can learn from them, right?
Yes.
And me, myself, as a working mom, my daughter is still very young. She's a baby still, but I want to make right choices, and I want to start introducing her early enough and explain some concepts that would shape her mindset and would help her grow as in a person that would see the world the way I do, as diverse, as bright, and learn more about many differences that we have that make the world special. And I'd like to ask our audience, do they have questions to Stephanie? So we can ask her right now. People are thanking you. They say that it's a wonderful talk, amazing presentation. And please feel free to ask your questions. Amazing one, they say.
Awesome. What I'd offer up for you, as you mentioned that you have a 2-year-old, right? I shared my
it's
4-year-old.
8 months.
Oh, 8 months. Okay. I'm aging.
There is a question. Can I go ahead and ask you?
Yeah,
what do you
absolutely.
think co-workers without children can do to show support, especially with the increase in remote work? Thank you. A question from Tanusa.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's tough, right? We get on calls and we're constantly interrupted either by a kid or a pet or a parent.
Yeah,
or
I know what you
mean. Yeah, and so I think those of us who do not have kids is just to really be empathetic, right? And I think those who do have kids is to also ensure that although they may be the center of your world, they are not the center of everyone else's world. And so finding that balance between sharing stories, pictures, or whatever, and holding back from that and just getting to work or just talking about other aspects of your life, so that you're not inundating people who don't have kids with topics that they may not be interested in. And then also providing space for those who don't have kids, an opportunity to share who they are and not feel any particular way about them not.
Right. Before I had my daughter, I was like, I didn't really understand how, really understand what parents feel and what are the challenges. But now I do. But by asking the right questions and spending time, with people who have kids, children, and right now it's not possible, of course, but having empathy, what you mentioned, it's really important and crucial right now. Thank you very much, Stephanie. Thanks a lot for this super interesting presentation. I took some notes for myself personally. I believe it was super helpful for our audience. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day and see you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.